Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Tom Johnson begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, rescue helicopters are no longer allowed to land at the Launceston General Hospital in a move which will affect dozens of critically injured patients. Annie Green joins us live from the LGH. Annie, why can't they land there anymore?
Tom, the Civil Aviation Safety Authority has tightened its regulations, saying Launceston's helipad is no longer up to scratch because of its size, location and lighting. Instead, helicopters will have to land at Launceston Airport, which is 13 kilometres away. In the meantime, Ambulance Tasmania is looking for an alternative landing spot closer to the hospital. This change is going to put more pressure on an already squeezed ambulance service. Upgrades to the helipad are due sometime next year, but it's not known if the Department of Health will now fast-track those upgrades. And with this helipad used at least 30 times a year, according to the government, it's a critical resource. Tom?
Yes, it certainly is. Thank you very much for that, Annie. The hunt is on for health providers to operate the federal government's urgent care clinics. They were a key Labor election promise, but health groups have signalled concerns over the model.
It was billed as one solution to overflowing emergency departments. 3 urgent care clinics promised by Labor in last year's federal election.
Anything that goes into supporting community medicine, primary health, is well needed in Tasmania.
A tender has been released by the State Health Department. It calls for a provider to operate the 3 clinics in the south, north and northwest.
We'll be partnering with the Australian Government to see these funds rolled out. We hope that they're properly resourced and appropriately located so that they can carry the burden of stretched public hospital emergency departments.
Why are we spending public money on private organisations running, in essence, public services, when in fact those services could be better integrated into our public health system?
Clinics have been costed at an average of $750,000 per year for operational costs. There's an extra $250,000 in year 1 to help establish them. Clinics will be required to bulk bill through Medicare. The AMA says that model will be financially challenging.
We don't know how much infrastructure is going to be required to modify an existing practice or to build a new practice. Also to be able to pay sufficient staff, especially a general practitioner with sufficient experience to be the director.
Also concerned it might undercut existing GP services who can't afford to bulk bill. It's hoped the clinics will be up and running in July this year, but with health workers hard to come by at the moment, staffing them could be a challenge.
We hope what doesn't happen is that those people are taken away from existing practices to go to work in the urgent care centre and further reduce the availability of GPs and nurses.
A Federal Department of Health spokesperson said the government has committed to proper resourcing and will work to leverage the available workforce while building capacity. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania's population is set to soar to over 650,000 in the next decade. The majority of those 80,000 newcomers are likely to head to Hobart. The boom's expected to help resolve staff shortages many industries are facing in the state.
To Tasmania because there are jobs here. We want to see that continuing. The reason is because we have significant unfilled vacancies here in Tasmania. Businesses are crying out for more people to take up these jobs.
The acting Premier says the government is planning for the expected increase in demand for housing, education and health services. A wet start to summer has caused limited numbers of everything from cherries to garlic across the state. While demand for Tassie products remains strong, there are fears farmers simply can't keep up.
A sea of cars and customers keen to snap up some cherries while they still can.
Most of the fruit is not ripe yet, then we've got the added problem of the rain causing the splitting on them.
About 300 kilos of cherries are ready to be sold at the Woodstock Cherry Farm in the Huon Valley, but it's feared consistent sales will be short-lived. The rain causing damage to around 80% of the crops.
At the moment we're only able to open when we've picked enough fruit and got it sorted to be able to to open for a day or two, and then we'll probably have to stop and build up our stock again.
It's been an inconsistent few months for production, with wet weather throughout spring and summer and a lack of sun delaying the readiness of fruit and veggies across the state.
At the moment, we're just picking by the handful instead of by the boxful.
A lack of sun also delayed the state's garlic crops by 3 weeks.
What would we normally be harvested early December was just before Christmas, but we've still had good sales of garlic and really good product to sell.
Limited ripe produce also means a lack of seasonal workers.
I mean, there's people wanting to come and do the work, and that's fine, but we just haven't been able to, put them on because of the damage to the fruit.
But there is still hope. Woodstock Cherries hopes to package around 12 to 15 tonnes of the Regina variety and export a percentage of that, with only 5% damaged so far. And there's no doubt locals and tourists alike will continue to support our Tassie farmers. Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
Exeter High School is set to be given a modern makeover as part of an $11 million redevelopment. Artists' impressions have been released showing the plans for new learning hubs for grades 7 through 10 and include revamped outdoor areas, a new arts facility and a kitchen upgrade. It's expected construction will begin in the second half of the year. New funding is hoping to lure more Tasmanians into taking public transport as the state government partners with local councils to roll out upgrades to bus shelters.
In Tasmania, we haven't done bus shelters particularly well, and we've got a lot of catching up to do.
I do know of several councils that have already started auditing their shelters and are putting their grants together.
The $10 million pool will deliver on an as-needs basis, with areas most in need given priority. Applications close next month. He's tailor-made for menswear and has no plans to give up his business ties. But today, Neil Pitt's owner Don took a moment to smell the pocket roses as he celebrated his 90th birthday the only way he knows how. Even on a milestone like this, Don Pitt's birthday suit is, well, his work suit.
And how do you celebrate 90 years today?
Oh, coming to work. I wouldn't normally be talking to you, that's for sure.
That's because for more than 70 years, he's been on his feet, fitting out customers from far and wide, always with a sense of humour up his sleeve.
Oh, it fits beautifully. That's the perfect fit.
And with his fascination for fashion, Don's been the perfect fit for what he calls the rag trade.
Everything cycles round. There's no such thing as a new fashion that hasn't been here before.
Don began the business alongside brother Neil in 1949, dressing post-war Tasmania when material was scarce.
There was big demand, of course, for clothing in those days, and in Launceston, for instance, there were 23 menswear shops.
His Brisbane Street store was converted from what was the Majestic Theatre. The old projector is a drawcard in itself. Now, instead of showing flicks, customers flick through the jungle of jackets and pants. Fabrics and colours of menswear may change from time to time, but the biggest factor to a stylish suit hasn't. It has to fit.
If it doesn't fit well, it'll never look right.
Don made some time to soak up the well-wishes in his coffee shop, but even in this part of the business, Don's always strived to be a little different.
If we started this today, we'd have called it a tea shop. Of course, there's coffee shops everywhere. There's 100 coffee shops in Launceston.
But there's only one Don Pitt. Tasmanian gin fans are in for a tasty treat next weekend as an annual Botanical Bonanza returns for its 6th year. With the number of new distilleries across the state growing, Ginuary has become so big it's had to find a new home.
Another new gin maker prepares to make their mark on Tasmania.
This is a growing industry, and it seems like every time you talk to someone there is a new distillery that is opening up.
Dynamic distilling duo Drifter's End have found fertile ground in Tasmania for their distinctive drinks. The label's botanical blends earning the Sister Act glowing reviews and a multitude of awards.
Tasmania has so much at its fingertips, and we just love being able to tap into that.
The pair are committed to growing all their own botanicals, including an ambitious attempt at the notoriously difficult macadamia tree.
You know, I bought the tree, crossing my fingers, let's hope.
They're just one of about 40 brands hoping to catch drinkers' eyes next weekend. Ginuary is now so popular it's had to move from its old digs at the Goodshed to Princess Wharf.
which just goes to show how well the industry is going and the excitement that people have around gin in Tasmania.
Adventurous spirits can rest assured with access to bottles unavailable anywhere else.
I think after a few gin tastings at the event, people come away with gins that they didn't even remember they were about to come away with.
Botanical bliss just around the corner. Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
Good evening, everyone. Launceston again the state's top today of 24 degrees, Devonport and Burnie both 20 and 17 in Hobart. Across the state, 23 in Ouse, the Islands, Smithton, Lowhead, Friendly Beaches and Strawn, all 21, 19 in St Helens and Lyowini, 17. Low-level cloud can be seen over most of the state today with thicker patches about the east and northwest. Further out, thunderstorms are developing over the top end and far eastern parts of the continent, with low-level cloud again dominating southern coastlines. Tomorrow, a large high-pressure system to the southwest of the state extends a ridge over most of the south, with a weak trough in the northwest of the state. Southeast to easterly winds tomorrow 5 to 15 knots, reaching 20 knots in the far south and through Bass Strait. Cloudy in the south tomorrow with Hobart reaching 19, Huonville 22, 21 in Campania. Partly cloudy and 24 in Launceston, 21 in Devonport, Georgetown a top of 22. 18 degrees in Burnie tomorrow, Strawn 22 and partly cloudy, a shower or two and 19 in Wynyard. And cloudy also in the east tomorrow with 19 in St Helens, Swansea 18 and 22 in Port Arthur. And the UV tomorrow remains extreme right across the state. On Saturday, light showers about the east and parts of the northwest. Fine and mostly sunny on Sunday. And on Monday, showers developing about the west from late morning. 32 in Perth tomorrow, sunny in Melbourne and Adelaide, Canberra 21, showers and 25 in Sydney, 31 in Cairns and Darwin and 27 in Alice Springs. And it's currently mostly cloudy across the state with Hobart 16, 21 in Launceston and Devonport 18. And Tom, look at us, pretty in pink tonight.
Turns out we wear pink on Thursdays too. Thanks for that, Chelsea. Well, that's all from us here tonight. Enjoy the cricket. Good evening.